Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us across the fence. I'm Fran Stoddard. Today honors the late Martin Luther King Jr. It's a day to remember the actions and values that define Dr. King: unconditional love, forgiveness, and nonviolence. This day also commemorates Dr. King's dream of a vibrant, multiracial nation united in justice, peace, and reconciliation. The University of Vermont recently released a series of initiatives that advance Dr. King's dream. The initiatives include building trust, catalyzing change, and better understanding racial trauma, mental health, and well-being. In a recent program, I asked the UVM Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion what she sees as the most important development in her 30-plus years at the university.
You know what? I would speak to actually the Andrew Harris,
beautiful.
Andrew Harris Commons, and it's 5 statuaries, monuments that's here on campus. It's at the center of our campus community, and it's named after our first African-American graduate. And 1838, I believe. Please forgive me if I got that wrong, but I believe
that's right.
And that it was an honor to really dedicate those stones in his name, a person who was not recognized, even though as a graduate of the University of Vermont, and the experiences that he had, even when his peers didn't want to walk across the stage with him. And it was our opportunity to say, we see you. You are not invisible to us any longer. And so that moment in time to stand out there on that green, a place that I feel like is about unity and coming together and acknowledging, that we need to do better and be better for all of our sake, is probably one of the is really a big highlight that for me, I feel like it's part of one of the legacies that long after I'm gone, that it'll still be here, and I'm glad to have been a part of that.
Let's learn more about Andrew Harris and the dedication of the Commons.
It's a quiet winter day at the University of Vermont, but this area is usually bustling with activity. It's a central hub of campus as students go to the library or the student center. And not long ago, this green became part of UVM's history.
It was a little misty that day, but no one could feel the raindrops or anything. It was like the sun had just shined all over us.
Wanda Hedden Grant is the Vice President for Human Resources, Diversity, and Multicultural Affairs at UVM. She's talking about the dedication ceremony of this space on campus as the Andrew Harris Commons.
The real most exciting part is that it's named after our first African-American graduate, Andrew Harris. And Andrew Harris graduated in 1838, and it is a way of acknowledging a man who was an abolitionist, an advocate for social justice and equity and the abolishment of slavery.
Across the Fence first reported the story of Andrew Harris several years ago, when he was being recognized by the university. Andrew Harris was a member of UVM's class of 1838. He was one of 24 graduates that year. A few years older than most of his classmates, Harris was already a community and religious leader in Troy, New York by the time of his graduation. What set him apart was not his age or his accomplishments, however. It was the color of his skin.
I was alerted to Andrew Harris by my friend Bob Buckeye at the Middlebury College Library, and there was a biography of him in the Black Abolitionist Papers, which is a great reference source on 19th century abolitionists. And so I looked that up and did a little research here and found that yes, indeed, he was enrolled at UVM and had been largely forgotten.
Harris was so forgotten that until about 2 decades ago, George Washington Henderson, who graduated in 1877, had been celebrated as UVM's first black graduate, with a portrait in the Waterman Building and a cafe named for him in the university's Student Center. Although Henderson was incredibly accomplished, Harris defied the odds by graduating nearly 40 years earlier in a nation where slavery was not yet abolished, and the Civil War wouldn't be fought for more than 20 years. There are no known pictures of Harris.
He was a leader, he was an ordained minister, as well as he was an abolitionist. And he really believed in equality, and he really wanted full citizenships, particularly for African Americans at that time. And so his hard work, his dedication, and his passion really stood out.
President Wheeler, who admitted Harris, despite the protests of much of the student body, was himself a devoted colonizationist. That's to say that although Wheeler opposed slavery, he also believed that slaves, as well as the free-colored population of the United States, should be sent back to their native lands.
If you can imagine in thinking around, 1838, graduating and the time before that, and what our society was like at that time, and to a certain degree we're still working on a lot of issues, but to be denied access and equality because of the color of one's skin, and to also not be able to be a part of what it really meant to be a student in higher learning, to always be sort of set aside in some kind of way. I'm not sure how he was able to endure that.
UVM was not Harris's first choice. He was first rejected by both Union College and Middlebury.
We don't know exactly why he continued on to Burlington, but perhaps he had heard that he might have a better reception here.
Harris's difficulties did not end once he began classes as a sophomore in November of 1835. Many of his classmates never warmed up to his presence, and his name is not listed in the catalog of students, which is one reason he remained unknown for so long. In addition, his name is listed out of order on many records, last instead of alphabetical. And Harris's final farewell from UVM at his graduation may have been the greatest insult. Apparently, his classmates took a final stand against his presence. According to an account from an attendee that was later printed in the anti-slavery newspaper The Liberator, Harris, quote, was not permitted to speak or to come upon the platform to receive his diploma, but was obliged to take it one side. The class declared that if he came upon the stage, they would have nothing to do with the exercises. In addition, Harris was not allowed to deliver his prepared speech, which was required by each graduate at the time.
The fact that he came here while slavery was still existing in the South, and became an active abolitionist himself, really said something about his character.
Can you imagine Burlington, Vermont at that time? A small, bustling waterfront town surrounded by farms, deep woods, mill towns, and a population that didn't include many who looked like Andrew Harris.
After leaving UVM, Harris expanded his already substantial role as a community, religious, and political leader, delivering fiery anti-slavery speeches to increasingly large crowds, and becoming an ordained minister. He moved to Philadelphia in 1839 and became pastor at a small church in the city. Harris was making a name for himself. All was going well until November of 1841, when Harris came down with a fever and died a few weeks later, just 27 years old.
We might have had much more to say about Andrew Harris and all the great things that he would have accomplished and done to make this a better place for all of us in terms of equality and equity and access. There was comments about what it meant to walk this campus at a time when Andrew Harris was here. There was comments about what it meant to be an alum who was coming back to visit this institution and how far it had come. There were comments about how we can be a model for other places and institutions where, you know, we all do not have the perfect history or the best history. Lots of things can be very bittersweet around diversity and inclusion.
Along with monuments marking the space, there's a historical marker explaining why the Andrew Harris Commons was created.
So many of us hope that this space will be used as a central hub, and it would be a gathering place for faculty, staff, and students. It would be a gathering place for our alum and our visitors and families and parents.
The project was the result of work by a number of partners, and Heading Grant says one of the key groups was UVM students.
But most importantly, this really speaks to our commitment of our students and how they engage on this campus and what they want for today and for tomorrow's students. This is all about how we move to a better, not just tomorrow, but a better today.
A touching memorial to a promising life cut short, and a fitting tribute for a groundbreaking UVM alumni.
It is a day that I will forever remember, and it is absolutely at the top of my list as one of the most important things in my time here at the University of Vermont that has occurred.